Are you a digital nomad, a retiree, or an expat living in Vietnam or Southeast Asia? These are some of the biggest mistakes that people make regarding taxes that can get them a big fine or even jail time. Hello, my name is Ken Duong, international business, immigration, and tax attorney from the United States with over 12 years of experience helping individuals learn and how to do business and live and work in different countries. Many of the issues that happen is because the person does not understand the taxes, especially understanding their home country taxes and taxes in Vietnam. Thus, many big mistakes are made, and today we want to help you to avoid those mistakes and especially avoid jail time. So let's get started. Living in another country like beautiful Vietnam can lead you to lose a sense of time or obligations. And one of the biggest mistakes expats and others living abroad tend to make is stop paying their home country taxes. So aside from a semantic debate, an expat is someone who lives overseas to the eyes of the government. So one of the biggest obligations and most important, especially a US citizen, is to file your taxes. But sometimes as expats living abroad, and myself included, we forget, or we say we can file it next year, or because we're not living in the US, we don't have to file taxes at all. And sometimes people just forget that they need to file their taxes. But it's very important under US law that every US citizen must file their income taxes annually and report their bank accounts under the Foreign Bank Account Reporting Act. There are two main scenarios that we need to consider as US citizens living abroad. Scenario number one is if you're a US citizen, a permanent resident, or a resident for tax purposes in the United States. You have to make sure that you file your taxes annually. For individuals, it's April 15th of the following year. And if you are not a US citizen or permanent resident, then you have to make sure and count the days that you are in the United States to be treated as a permanent resident for tax purposes. So make sure you understand what is your specific category. Governments around the world have some understanding that people who become expats may not understand exactly how the US tax laws work. The US government has some leniency with dual citizenship holders in understanding that, for example, someone who is born in the United States and is therefore a US citizen, but also a dual citizen of a European country where they grew up, they never considered the US their home. So they are given the benefit of the doubt by saying, maybe that person just didn't know. And the second case are all other cases where they may be a US citizen or permanent resident, but they're unsure. However, ignorance of the law is not a protection against knowing the law. So the US government uses many procedures in order to increase the Internal Revenue Service agents to talk and also to educate the people who are US citizens or permanent residents or treated as US residents for tax purposes, to give them proper advice. And two is to make sure they collect the taxes and the monies being made by US citizens living all over the world. So you have to make sure you follow all the criteria which is set out in the Internal Revenue Code on what your tax obligations are. The US is not difficult to understand, but you have to make sure you follow to the T those rules and regulations, and they're clearly set out above. What if you just willingly go overseas and you don't file your taxes? With agencies like FATCA and also under FBAR, banks around the world, if you have over 10,000 US dollars in your bank account, the United States government requires those foreign banks to report your bank balance, and they'll eventually figure it out. Now there is the CRS, or known as the Common Reporting Standard. Governments are reporting bank balances to each other. What you have in an offshore jurisdiction is an increased disclosure of who owns different foreign companies. So hiding money in foreign companies doesn't really work the way it used to. So what if you don't pay your taxes? That is a scenario that happens very frequently in the United States. However, throughout the periods, the penalties have been increasing 10,000, 30,000, 50,000, even more for non-payment, non-filing, or even for underpayment of tax penalties. Make sure you try to avoid that scenario, pay your taxes, and you'll be fine. But how do you get the right services in order to file your taxes properly, pay your taxes to the right authorities, and live in peace abroad? Because if you don't file your taxes, the US government has 3 years to audit your tax returns and assess all the penalties involved. Thus, your best case scenario is they don't audit you. Your worst case scenario is you're constantly living in fear. When is the US government coming for me? And when do I need to file my taxes? So what's the best thing to do? Get tax advice from tax experts and legal experts. The most common question that people ask is, how will they find me? There are so many different mutual assistance treaties and information sharing amongst the governments, even outside of FATCA. CRS, where countries exchange information that you are probably not even aware of. There are IRS offices all around the world. There are so many different ways for them to get their hands on your information. In addition to the information sharing, they actually even have ways at times to reach in and put liens and take the money out of your bank account. Just because your money is not, for example, in the United States, doesn't mean they can't go in and take your money. We have the smart solution. It is not worth it for you to not file your taxes. One of the best solutions is to find a tax legal expert in your country. And at Duong Global, we have offices in Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, and many affiliates around the world that can help you file your taxes. Thus, make sure that you contact our company, Duong Global, in any one of our countries, especially in the United States, for your tax legal expert to help you file your taxes properly and timely. Taxes are very important. Thus, you need to know what your obligations are. So therefore, to get the most updated information, like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, click on the notification bell below, and also comment if you have questions specific to your tax needs. Once again, at Duong Global, thank you very much for watching this video. We want to make sure you file your taxes properly, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.